Tales from the streets.
So we have a guest that I've been super excited about just because I just was so impressed by my first introduction to her story. So we have Lisa Plumb. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I got an opportunity to watch her tell her story on a YouTube channel, and I watched it all the way through and was just the entire time just awestruck by just her poise, her ability to share her story, her vulnerability, all these things. And then one of the things that stuck out to me was she had interactions with law enforcement. And I was honestly just taken aback and saddened by some of the interactions that she had with law enforcement. So I reached out to her in an opportunity to get her to share her story with us and maybe share some ways that law enforcement can do some things a little bit better. She graciously took us up on this, and I wanted to have an opportunity to kind of just walk our audience through this because it was just, like I said, it was just one of those ones that I was just awestruck. So I want to start not by telling your story up front, but I wanted to first ask you, how do you define yourself? People say victim, they say survivor, they'll have all these different things. And me, quite frankly, I try to, when I was meeting with you and talking with you, I wanted to make sure I chose the right words and maneuvered through this story the right way. So tell me, how do you define yourself and why?
I'm a victim. I'm a survivor. I'm an advocate. I don't think we should be afraid of the word victim because it's true. When you're a victim of a crime, you are. It's different than transferring or transforming yourself to survivor. Uh, that takes place after you've started to heal and make sense of it and figure out your life. But as a child, like you don't really have an opportunity to do that usually. And children are definitely victims. And anybody that's a victim of a crime or a child abuse, you're a victim. But
Yeah,
different than, taking that victim persona on.
I like it.
Could
So
you could you
go
elaborate
ahead.
on that part? The separation between identifying, hey, I am a victim of a crime, but not taking on the victim persona. Could you elaborate on that? Just
Yeah. So, well, one thing is, I think it's important to be honest and truthful, and not, kind of fresh in toxic positivity. That happens a lot to people who are victims. And okay, well, now we're going to make good out of it, or we're going to just, turn this around and it'll be better for you in the long run. No, no. I mean, I'm not saying that's not a possibility at some point, but that's a very shaming approach, really. People aren't given any time to be with their feelings and to heal and have appropriate outrage. It's hard for victims often to get in touch with anger, or it becomes like they're angry at everything. And so having a healthy view of what a victim is, allows healing, and you don't have to rush, if you're at the place where you're ready to move on with life, good for you, but maybe the other person isn't. They're in the healing mode. They still have the bruises and the cuts and they don't have the scars yet. But a victim persona, I guess, would be more like, I'm just stuck here and you need to feel bad for me. I can't see anybody's point of view but my own, and I'll never be able to heal. If that becomes your new identity, and you can be in that identity and not be a child abuse survivor.
that's fair. Thank you.
Yeah.
Toxic positivity. Thank you for elaborating
Yeah.
on that too. That I wrote that. I like that one.
Yeah. I wrote it
Never
down
thought
too
about it that way.
because I never thought about it that way, but this is the second we spoke with some people that were not that were liaisons for victims of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragedy, and they were talking about how just kind of bridging that gap between people healing and what they needed and knowing what all these different families. And I think that's something that maybe becomes part of it, because as those of us as outsiders who aren't victims, a lot of times we're like, okay, we want you to kind of
Yeah.
get back into life almost. And I never thought about it as it being toxic to the victim's persona and their soul during their healing process. A lot of times people measure like, oh, they're doing great because they've just picked up and moved on with life. And that's can be really bad.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
interesting. The other thing, I wanted to tell your story, but I want to talk about where you are today and then maybe work backwards, because I think where you are today is as important as the other part of your story. And I think if we sometimes going the other way, people don't pay attention to this part of it. And I think it's super important. So tell me about Lisa today, wife Lisa, mother Lisa, licensed family or marriage family therapist Lisa. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well,
That was a
I
lot.
am in
That was a
private
lot.
yeah. Yeah, how do I explain all that? I mean, I'm grateful that I am in private practice in California and Arizona. So I do teletherapy in-person therapy. I have my office. I'm in my office here. And I've been married 38 years.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
And
That's
it's
awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
it's we've had to work at it. I like to be realistic, again, not toxic positivity. Everybody wants to put a beautiful bow on the end, like, no, I'm a therapist and everything's great all the time. No,
Yeah.
it's real life. You have to work
Yeah.
at it. Like, if you don't just achieve something and then it stays. So anyway, it's a good marriage. We've had our ups and downs. We're both trauma survivors, so that complicates everything. And then I have 3 sons that are adults, and they're awesome, even though they were raised by a mother with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is one of the things that I really try to help my clients with, that I feel like I didn't get. The first off, when I started therapy, there was no trauma-informed therapy really, and it was a little bit, I was scratching and clawing to try to find healing, but I found that therapists were compassionate usually, but
Uh-huh.
they didn't know how to say, okay, so even though you went through all that, Lisa, like, don't yell at your kids. Like, this is how we parent, and giving me, appropriate confrontation and then guidance. That would have
Mm.
been really appreciated. But anyway, and I'm also a grandma now and jumping out of that thing to the other, but I guess that's pretty much me where I'm at as far
Well,
as wife, mother, therapist.
let me ask you this: how you've been practicing therapy for 16 years? How long? What age were you in there? I guess how long were you in therapy before you started practicing therapy?
Okay, well, just to be super technical,
Yeah.
my first experience with therapy, it was in junior high, and I had bad attendance and mandated to go to therapy. And that therapist I saw one time, she got a little bit of information out of me that she's like, I have to make a child abuse report. At the time, I was petrified, and yeah, my family treated me like crap about it because they were abusers.
Yeah.
But if she had taken some time, she would have found a whole lot more, maybe.
Yeah.
So I didn't really do therapy, and at the time, it didn't work out well for me, but later in my adult life, when I started to heal, that really validated me that she thought just that was worth a child abuse report, let
Yeah.
alone
Just a small
anything
amount.
else.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there was Mr. Mason, who was the school counselor at my middle school, and he was an angel to me. I don't think he knew what was going on, but he probably suspected stuff was going on. And then eventually he knew something went on because some perps got busted and I was questioned there. But as an
Yeah.
adult, I was able to, I found my spiritual path, my
Uh-huh.
Christian spiritual path, and I was able to put the drugs down and be sober. And I got married young, and it was more common then too. But anyway, we got
Yeah.
married. We're just like, we're going to do this. And then I had my first son, and major depression hit. I'm like, wow, I'm not okay. And
Yeah.
that's when I threw myself into therapy. I was like, it doesn't matter what I need to do or be told, I need to get better. And so that I would have been 20,
Wow.
21 maybe
Okay.
at that point. And I've just kind of been off and on here and there ever since. And I'm
Uh-huh.
57 now.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're touching on stuff we've talked about it before, but seeking therapy is a huge step in and of itself for a lot of people. Then you begin the process of finding the therapist that kind of works for you. I
Right.
don't want to say tells you what you need to hear, but makes you feel like they're listening to you. I don't know the proper verbiage for it right now, but sometimes you have to go through a few, and that can be very daunting because it's like you've already
Yeah.
decided to seek therapy, and now it's like, oh, this was not working out, or they keep flaking out, or what are the million reasons why. And then you find one that you really like, which I've done a few times, and I've had my current one on the show because she's awesome. But I've had a few that I really had like a relationship with, had some consistency with, and then they either switch, they do something else, and you're like, they just leave you, and it's such an odd feeling. And our friend BJ, he's lucky in the sense that he's been seeing the same therapist since he was in high school, like over 20 something years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And and he talks about it openly, and I love that about him because he's a big dude and he doesn't care. He'll share his feelings, but he's like, yeah, she'll tell me like, yeah, you're being a baby. Stop it. Like the way she talks to him. But I mean, like that's such a amazing relationship. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear you talk about the same thing. You currently do it now, so it's just something that's kind of been replicated over and over again in a few
Yeah, I
conversations
tell my
we've had.
clients, probably haven't told every single client, but I try to tell my clients, just to be super technical,
Yeah.
that if they find I'm not going in the right direction or I say something stupid, please let me know. And also, therapy is a tool you can pick up and put down. And sometimes you maybe need a female therapist or a male therapist, or this nurturing therapist was good, and now maybe you need someone that's a little bit more reality based. I think it's good to have a combination, but therapy is about building a relationship. But definitely there's been harmful therapy. I've had harmful therapy, and
Really?
so I also encourage people to not just take someone's word for anything just because they have a degree or a title, or promote themselves as a profession. There's, not well people in all fields.
That's a valid point. But can you elaborate on harmful therapy? You don't have to
Yeah.
necessarily name the person, but maybe
Right.
what made you feel like it was harmful, just to put it out there.
Well, one, they're not validating. But then if they just kind of brush over maybe your feelings, or your experiences, not really get into it, they're not maybe competent, or they're only stuck with one modality, like CBT or something. I went to a CBT therapist and he was like, I was getting super triggered. He had no idea what to do. And then he's like, I can't see you anymore. Bye. And I'm like, decompensating. Had another
Jeez.
therapist. Like, I've done martial arts for many years. I haven't the past couple of years
Oh,
or so, but she's
like it.
like, victims do martial arts and stuff, and like they get religious, and like in a condescending, like that's a bad way.
Ugh,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
that's
And
awful.
I actually did complain about her to the board of behavioral
Yeah,
health sciences.
Yeah.
that's
Um,
outrageous.
and that
Well,
was
you brought
after
it
this
up.
guy.
That's crazy.
He's
Oh, you
like,
brought it
you,
up.
you,
What kind
you
of martial arts were you doing?
Yeah, we want to know.
Now I gotta know.
well, okay. So
I
I
gotta
started
know.
with Kempo.
Uh-huh.
Is that the stick?
And
Is that the sword fighting one?
no, it's more like
I think
katas
it's
and just doing it in the air.
Okay.
There was a little bit of sparring, and then he did eventually incorporate ground fighting more so than
Yeah.
jujitsu. Right. You got to have that.
nice.
I realize
It's
now.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
Which
Dude,
also
I
makes
am
me feel
loving
like
this. This is
I
like,
get.
I think we've had 2 or 3 therapists on here that are like ballerinas, fighters. I'm like, let's
All
go.
this stuff.
I love it.
Well,
Sorry.
martial arts really is a preferred treatment of trauma, which I didn't know until
Really?
many years later. But Judith Herman, who wrote Trauma and Recovery,
That's
said
dope.
martial arts is a great treatment for trauma, as is yoga. But what she said specifically about martial arts, I mean, besides the movement, okay, but
Yeah.
now you're activating yourself into a violent situation, but you're in control. You can manage it. You can
Makes
like
sense.
rewire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come
And then
on,
it's just
Lisa, let's go. We're dropping toxic positivity and martial arts for therapy. I'm loving this already. Yes.
But you
yeah,
think about
yeah.
it, like when you just said it's putting them in this violent situation, but you're in
Yeah.
control, and most of the time when you're a victim, you're not. So
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing. I would have never paralleled the two.
Nope.
Yeah.
Loving it.
And
Yeah.
also for me, like I'm very athletic, and that's what I dreamt about as a child. I just wanted to
Yeah.
do volleyball and softball, and I had some opportunity with that. But because of my bad childhood, I
Uh-huh.
wasn't able to.
Right.
So martial arts really filled that hole for me. Um,
Awesome.
and so that really drove me because I like the movement, and to hit
Yeah.
things and stuff. And so, but when I first went to martial arts, I was very, very anxious, very, very nervous,
Yeah.
Really?
a lot of social anxiety. And in my mind, just the way it was working, like I grew up kind of getting beaten up, and So I was just always afraid that was going to happen. But I
Right.
felt, whether it was real or imagined, but I think more
Mm.
real than imagined, I developed some skills to be able to defend myself. And that gave me a
Right.
lot of confidence. Like, okay, well, I think I can, manage it. That was just my thinking as a very young
Right.
adult. And it really helped because that was just
Yeah.
like, I need to have some skills here. Although my stepdad did try to teach me some stuff. He taught me how to carry a knife and walk down the street with it and grab people's hair and slam their head on my knee and,
All right, a little street fighting. I got it.
A little bit.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
he
That's
he tried to
funny.
empower me.
Okay.
I kind of want to go back. There was a couple things that you said with PTSD. Is that now your one of your like specialties or fortes with your clients, or is it just that's just something if you know you having a client like that you'll incorporate, or is that really your focus?
I really love working with trauma survivors. Trauma is defined as a billion things, but it's
Mhm.
really something beyond your capacity to manage or have,
Right.
comfort through. So it can look like a lot of different things, not just technical child abuse, but yeah, I they're my favorites, which is pretty much everybody, although the healthiest people are the ones that come to therapy.
Yes.
The ones that probably need it more and they're the ones going around and wounding everyone don't come to therapy. At least not in private practice. They might be court mandated sometimes, but that's a whole nother and they
That's a
may
whole
not
other
get
thing.
help actually.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
Um
question I had for you is you have an extensive history with when it comes to therapy and that kind of thing, and yours both on both sides of the fence. When did you see the switch happen where therapists did become more trauma informed and become more competent to deal with those kinds of things?
Really, when I moved to Arizona. But I did have a mentor who's passed away, Father Ewart. He wrote a book and I read it and I needed to know what he knew. But he was pretty trauma informed and but not in a more structured way that would be easy to learn. I would try to take notes and figure it out. He was also working with me and my own
Hmm.
triggers. And so there was little trickle of people trying to figure things out. But once I moved to Arizona and then I, couldn't just transfer my license into private practice and I worked for agencies. Agencies can be very good for training therapists.
Okay.
And I learned about the brain. Like this, I hope is part of other people's curriculum now in school, but the
Hmm.
brain states, fight, freeze, fawn, fawning or submitting, and how our brain chooses for us, how to regulate, why we should breathe out longer than in, because it cuts off the adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol, and like all these practical tools and the scientific reason why I've always been searching for the science, even though I have faith in God, I need the science. And
Right.
Mhm.
that's a big part of my unindoctrinating myself from all the pedophiles indoctrinating me through my childhood. So it just seemed about 11 years ago, once I moved to Arizona, that I started really understanding trauma at a deeper level and how to heal it.
Very cool. This goes along with some of the other therapists that we've talked to. When
Yeah.
you are working with your clients, do you incorporate the physiology sides of it to know like what are they eating and what does their blood work look like or what medications are you looking at it as a more holistic view when you're dealing with your clients?
I
And do you
do,
do that
but
with yourself too?
yeah, I'm not a nutritionist, dietitian, or medical doctor, but I do mention the physical. We should always look at the physical first. Does anybody have a traumatic brain injury? Women are notoriously struggling once they hit perimenopause and menopause, and hormone replacement therapy is great for that if you can, but just be mindful of like, and then of course, if we're having a metabolic issue, that definitely affects your mood. So I do mention those things for sure. But then what I do is I give a lot of science and most people seem to like it. There's
Hmm.
occasionally some people that are like, they don't really seem to like it, but I figure people want to understand too why we want to breathe out longer than in, how to tell when we're dysregulated. I mean, there's tapping, there's EMDR, there's meditating, anything we can do to rewire our nervous systems because that's what really PTSD is the trauma is just kind of ever present with us. because our
Mhm.
amygdala is hyper vigilant, looking for, the next thing, trying to protect us. So all of our body systems are trying to protect us, but it just can be like, sometimes the amygdala is wrong and sometimes it overreacts, but it always has our best interest in mind.
Right.
And
You
so
saw
we
me make
can,
a face. But my mother, long story, I'll keep it very short. My mother decided at 55 she wanted to be a doctor, became a doctor, and she's now practicing up in northern Maine. But her whole
awesome.
deal is geriatric patients. Like that's her passion. I laugh because I'm like, she doesn't give two shits about my age group or like kids. She's like, no, they have enough doctors, but she cares about the elderly. Hormone therapy, she's like, that is her jam. She's like, Tyler, I have seen dramatic changes in these women, mostly women, but she treats men too, but she has her passions. And she's like, they're getting off their medications, they're losing weight, they're energetic. These are 70, 80-year-old women who are like thinking they're on their deathbed going to, about to be like, hey, I'm going to die. And now they're like, oh no, I'm going on vacation, hormone therapy. So the fact to hear you say that, I'm laughing because that's her passion right now. She's really getting into it.
It's pretty
Well, nature, I mean, some, clients are like, I'm going to have a talk with God, when I die. Like, why? Why do women have hormones and then not? And then it's, ruins marriages, your own mental health, your physical health. It's really hard. I'm sure there's, for some natural way or a healthier diet that if our culture supported, it would make things easier because some women don't seem to have as many symptoms. Really, always look at the physical hormones, traumatic brain injury. Are you low
Yeah.
on vitamin D, fish oil, those sorts of things? Anemic?
Mo,
literally,
how many times have you heard a professional say
you're the
that?
third
Yeah.
therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist that we've had on the show, and all of you have said the same exact thing. It's just incredible that
Yeah.
Oh, good.
maybe insurance companies and all the other parts aren't jumping on board and saying this too.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So, Lisa, can you walk me? We're going to walk back now. Your childhood is where you were a victim survivor. That's where that kind of got born out of. What was the perception for the person that was on the outside looking in? What was your childhood like? What did it look like?
I mean, from what I think, at least if you looked at my parents, they look like a typical white middle class 50s couple, you know? My mom had her hair like short and however, and the makeup, and our house was always immaculately clean. It was a middle class house, middle class neighborhood. The yard was clean, everything right. And they were articulate. My dad was a high school teacher, and my mom just did various things. But so I think if you didn't look farther, that's what you would see. And then my brother nicknamed her a Hollywood mom because she'd be like, "We kids, blah, blah," like yelling at us. Someone would knock on the door and she'd be like, "Welcome,"
Mm.
and so there was a lot of hiding of bad behaviors. But
Right.
I do think at some point, some people must have definitely noticed with me, maybe my siblings, that there was something, going on.
Now, with your
Right.
siblings, were you the oldest, or what was how did that fall?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. Your brother was the oldest, or
My sister, then my brother, then me.
okay, all right.
Mhm.
So that's the way things looked. Can you give us an idea of what it was really like, starting wherever the point you want to start from telling us?
Well, my parents divorced when I was 5,
Mhm.
and you know, we usually don't have memories until we're about 5. Picture memories, our bodies remember. But I do remember my mom, at the time I didn't know it, but had tried to kill herself. And so I was looking at her in bed, and my mom's not someone to stay in bed. And she ended up going to the hospital for a while. And when she came back, she was Hollywood mom. Yeah, like my brother's
Mm.
nickname for her, very fitting. And she
Hmm.
got involved in singles clubs and would have a bunch of singles people. And so this would have been mid 70s, early 70s. Long story short, I guess, it turns out that pedophiles are looking for single moms, especially if they're mentally ill, which if you had the eyes to see and you're around my mom long enough, you probably would have picked up on that.
Mm.
Right.
But I see her like as a malignant type of narcissist, mean, but she could put on a show,
I see.
at least to other people. But if you're healthy, you're going to figure it out anyway. But pedophiles are really good at figuring that out. Like she doesn't protect her kids and stuff, but also she became a participant. So various pedophiles would come over. I know one molested me and became my mom's boyfriend. And he's like, well, we're going to go to nudist camps. Glen Eden was the name of the nudist camp, still going on, family nudist camp off the 15 freeway in California. Near Lake Elsinore, and we didn't want to go. Like us kids were like, "Ew," we don't want to get naked in
No.
front of people. But
Right.
he took us, and we had to. We didn't have a choice. Not clothing not optional. And maybe it's not a surprise to you guys, but at the nudist camps, guess who goes to nudist camps? Pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there was the hairy guy in the pool where he would like throw his kids around and I say accidentally. Obviously it wasn't, but grab like my groin area and stuff. And then the guy that the kids nicknamed Doctor, I don't know if he was a doctor, but he would watch us with his goggles under the water and just all kinds of creepy stuff like that. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, when we got home, Larry was all about teaching us about sex. By showing us with my mom and all kinds of
Hold on.
stuff.
I'm sorry. When you say so, your mom was supportive of these activities, is what you're saying?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. And then showing you with your mom, he would have you and your siblings watch, is what I'm
Watch them
assuming?
have sex.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I just wanted to. Okay. I
Yeah,
apologize. Okay.
that's okay. I mean, it's not okay,
No.
but of course, it's fine for you to ask any questions. I know it's hard for people to hear, but I just, at one point in my life, I realized that when you say you were molested, a lot of people I don't think understand what that means. They think maybe, oh, some guy grabbed your boobs for a second, like get over it and
Yeah,
move on, but that's traumatic too, by the way. But
for sure. I have a daughter.
molestation,
Yeah.
but what happens to children in these situations is it's a whole grooming process. They try to gain your favor. It's like really they try to get you to love them
Mm.
just so they can use you sexually with their twisted way. And it's like a complete heartbreak and using and twisting. They're all philosophers. Larry said, "I don't want you and your sister to be frigid when you grow up." And I'm 5 at this time, and I was like a refrigerator. Like
You were 5 years old, you said?
yeah,
Okay. All right.
5 to 6 probably with Larry, and
Okay.
I didn't really understand half of what he was saying, and I did not know what I was seeing. It was a few years later
Mm-hmm.
that it hit me. Oh, that's sex. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to
Right.
explain it, but when you're little, maybe
Yeah.
they even said it, but I didn't really understand
Doesn't
it.
mean anything. Yeah.
Yeah. You have no
Um,
basis of knowledge on that.
No.
So was that
Yeah,
the first time, Lisa? Or was there, you mentioned that there was another pedophile before. Was there a time before that you remember?
yeah, that guy. Let me just say really quick on the
Sure.
video that I did that on the other channel. I don't know if I can mention it or not.
No, go
You
ahead.
can. You
Yeah.
can.
Soft white underbelly, which I really appreciate him giving me a voice because I did try to get my voice out to newspapers and other places, talk
Yeah.
shows. Nobody ever responded to me, but I would like to respond to people, but I haven't been able to lately. But I look at the comments somewhat frequently, and people will sometimes say, that's why you need to teach kids the names, technical names of genitalia. Well, yeah, I think that's a good idea, but that would not have prevented what was happening to me either.
Yeah,
No.
for sure.
I just have to say that. I'm sure I don't know when I learned real names, but my whole family system, it was a mess. There was
Yeah.
I never considered saying anything to anybody because people were telling me that they're healthy and normal and naturists. That's what people call themselves that go to news camps, are the enlightened ones, and
Mm.
other people aren't. So you don't want to talk to them. You want to talk to us, and we have your best interest in mind. But
It's part
So,
of that grooming process.
Lisa, I'm sorry. So for the people who haven't seen what I know what you're referring to about teaching them the proper names. Could you explain what you mean by that? I watched the video, so I understand what you're saying. But
well, like
go ahead.
penis, vagina, right?
Yeah, but they called it
Anus.
something else, right?
Like, well, people will say your privates or your
Yeah.
JJ or PP, whatever. which I don't think is terrible, when you're talking to your kids, but
Mhm.
it's also good to, like, teach them. Like, maybe I did it too soon, but I pretty much told my boys what sex was when they were 5.
I did the
But
same
just
thing.
matter of factly, this is what happens, and they're like, "Ugh," you
Oh my
know?
god.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
gross, but, like, I know you're gonna hear the word, on the playground, I just want you to know what it is. And then
Yeah,
I
for
just
sure.
step out, and we just have conversations throughout their childhood a little bit here and there, trying to make it comfortable for them to talk to me, but,
Right.
Yeah.
so
But
yeah.
in your position, what was happening with you, like you said, you were being groomed from a very super young age. So even if you would have known the right words, like you said, there wasn't anything for you to still go and be able to tell somebody in the right words because according to what you were getting from the people that you loved and trusted, this was normal and this was what was supposed to happen. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. And a sad side note, I don't want to be so negative, but it's the truth. Even when children tell, a lot of
Mhm.
times they don't ever get rescued. Or if they get put
Yeah.
into a foster home, I mean, foster homes, a
Oh,
lot of them are not healthy places either. It's a hot mess.
yeah, I agree.
I agree
But
with
if
that.
it's not their parents and their parents' care, that could end up good for them.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move past Larry, because I'm trying to save my bunny trail questions, but I just want to get through kind of the progression because the way you outlined it, I thought was I apologize on the soft white underbelly. The way you outlined it and then move forward, I thought was very enlightening. Want to give you that space to do that because then I want to ask my questions and my thoughts on that. So
Okay, so
yeah, so after Larry,
kind of
kind of
more
like
of
what was
a
the progression? Yeah.
so the first one I remember was John. Now, there might have been
Mhm,
some early childhood stuff that's more confusing for me. I'm not sure. Possibly
mhm,
my father was involved, but it's, for healing, just trust your body and trust your flashbacks.
mhm,
But, I know for sure John Lippert and Larry Feldman, and John was more one on one with me. And then, well, when you are raised in a violent family, and my mother was very, very mean and cruel. And we did get spanked and stuff, but not severe physical abuse. However, I did get severely physical abuse from my brother. I mean, as far as black eyes and stuff. But my brother, what happens is children start to act it out on others. You're
mhm.
Right.
early, you're sexualized early, there's violence early, you're not being loved. It's just an angry environment. So what happened to me is my brother and some neighborhood boys would regularly pants me, chase me down and take off my
Mhm,
pants and put objects or almost put objects in me or threaten me or look at me, and just not let me go. And
mhm.
so that happened, and that kind of went throughout the neighborhood. Couple guys down the street on their own, like I'd ride by my bike and they just grab me, take me in their bedroom. So that's what
This was
happened.
all at a very young age, just to keep that.
Yeah. This is before 9.
Okay.
So about when I was 9, my stepdad came into our life and he actually was a good guy.
Mhm.
Everyone's a mix, right? But because we did smoke pot together and I was young. But he was a
Okay.
merchant marine and yeah, but I needed it at the time.
Yeah, sure.
But because I started smoking cigarettes at 8 and drinking, and then by 10, I was a regular pot smoker. But Raymond McKnight, for me, was my angel. He wasn't a pedophile, like, he liked my mom, but
Mhm.
he would hear me crying in the middle of the night, and he would actually come and pick me up and carry me to my mom, and then go sleep on the couch, and he called me sugar, and just was always very nurturing to me, where my mom would never, because I guess I cried a lot, as an adult, he always say, "You sound like your mom, and you always cried as a child," and I was like, "Thanks, stop saying that."
Okay. You
Um
had
Yeah.
some reasons, but we'll continue. Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand what you're saying.
and I don't think he knew the all of it, right?
Mhm.
But he had some ideas, I think, because then when I was older, mind you, he's a merchant marine, so
Yeah,
he'd be gone 6 months at a time, and he was
got it.
Yeah.
with my mom from when I was 9 to 12, and then he couldn't
Okay.
take her anymore, and he left. He did try to protect me, he did try to teach my brother, it was probably the only one he ever heard say, boys don't hit girls, don't do that, or there's going to be consequences, or,
Mhm.
he was the only one trying to parent.
Yeah.
And I think it did impact all of us in a positive way. It didn't make everything end or better
Right.
100%, but any protective factor like that
Yeah.
matters. And so I think he just gave me a sense of what it actually feels like to be nurtured.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but around, I guess I was 11, my sister went back to Indiana for graduation or something, and to our grandmother's place. And on the train, she met Don and Jody, and she's a young girl, and they're like engaging with her because they're pedophiles. And they find out that she went to Glen Eden. And well, guess what? They go to Glen Eden too. And you have an 11-year-old sister? Okay.
Mm.
Well, we should all go to Glen Eden. I don't know how I wasn't there, but that's pretty much what happened. I was told by my mom that this couple is coming over and they're going to take you to Glen Eden. I'm like, I don't want to go,
So
because
this
we
random
stopped
couple that your
after.
sister met, your mom's like, yeah, you're gonna go with them.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And so when Larry broke up with my mom, which she actually read the letter. So yeah, he was violent besides being sexual. Like, he picked up my brother by his ankles and dunked his head in the toilet, right in front of me. And
Jesus.
really bad. And then he proceeded to molest me. And so, but then he decided to break up with my mom, and the letter was something like, I just can't take your kids. They're like too much or something. And my mom
Okay.
said, look, you kids did to me, and you caused, I don't know what she said. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
hard for me to remember. Truly, my nickname for her as I got older is Psycho Bitch from Hell, because she just the meanest things you could think of. But
Yes.
Yeah.
anyway, we all
So
are supposed to feel bad, because Larry
let me
left.
ask you a question, Lisa. During this time, I know you said you had some vague memories of your father maybe in the beginning, but are you visiting Dad? Is Dad hearing some of let's take out the sexual side of it, but is he hearing the physical abuse that's going on with you and your brother and your sister? Is he hearing these random people that are taking you to this nudist camp? And if so, what is his response?
Right. Well, honestly, all those questions, I don't know. I mean, so I remember now that with the first guy, John, my sister walked in and caught him molesting me in the act. And she got mad. She's 4 years older than me. And what ended up happening is she got my mom and him at the kitchen table, a little 9-year-old girl, right? I'm like 5. And was trying to, she seemed mad at me, but I don't really blame her. She's 9. She's going through the
Yeah.
same stuff,
She's just
but,
upset.
Right.
Yeah.
and tried to like do something about it. But it
Mhm.
was just an actual very humiliating, shaming experience for me. Like, he had threatened me another experience or molestation that if I told, like, don't want my mom to die, if I say anything,
Mm.
maybe
Yeah.
he would kill her. And
Hmm.
so when she's trying to get me to say what happened, and my mom's just sitting there at the table, like, I don't know, entertainment to her, it seemed. And he's there, and she said, "What happened, Lisa?" And I just, I
Nothing.
didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Plus, I really didn't have the words to know what to say.
Yeah. You're
Right.
But
5.
Yeah.
I guess my dad heard about it. And so I was in the car with him. I just remember being in the back seat, but I might not have been. But he's like, "Lisa, so I heard you were molested." And I'm like, okay. Is that what that is? I don't know. But he said, just don't make a big deal about it.
Okay.
That
So this is your
that's
dad
what
saying that to you?
yeah. That's it.
So we have to assume he probably did know since he didn't think it was a big deal.
Right. So just don't make a big deal about which whatever that means, I don't know. But
Yeah.
thanks, I guess, or what are you supposed to do with that? But as you can
Right.
tell, my father was not nurturing,
Right.
not caring, really cold. I'm sure he witnessed my brother hitting me and my sister. I was the youngest, and they took it out on me. And my dad slapped me and stuff. But other than that, like, we didn't really have conversations. It was just
I
he would
see.
pick
Mhm.
us up on Sunday afternoon and bring us home Sunday evening or something. And we just had to be quiet when the news was on. And, it was just, but one of the things he would do for some reason, he would leave us alone in his apartment sometimes. And my brother and sister, they figured out that there was like pornography in his apartment or like those pens where you turn them and one way they have clothes on, the other way they don't. And just my dad had all kinds of stuff like that. And so, and
Hmm.
change laying around. So my dad would leave us in the apartment and we would just like scour the apartment to find these things. And so that was kind of just like my early childhood with him. He was just mean and just
Got it.
cold and distant. And I did ask him for a hug when I was little once, and he told me no, um, because my brother and sister are adopted, and somehow I stuck in my mom's womb. But he didn't want them to feel bad if he hugged me. And he was adopted, but anyway, he's messed up, right? Emotionally.
Yeah.
Just I've
Hmm.
psychoanalyzed it a lot since then. But at the
Yeah.
time, I remember thinking, well, just hug them too.
Hug them too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What are we
that's what I
doing?
was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what
So
difference does that
that's
make?
your brother and sister are adopted, but you are their natural child. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
Yep.
story goes,
So
my
that's why you
mom,
couldn't give hugs to anybody.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I don't even. But yeah, so they couldn't have kids, so they adopted, which
Oh,
is another problem with adoption, isn't it? Who's adopted?
yeah. There's supposed to be background checks and all these things that happen, but clearly
Maybe
they
not.
got through the cracks twice at least.
Well, and I don't even know. Well, it would have been in the 60s when my brother and sister were adopted. I don't know what they background checked. They just look at my parents. You're a high school teacher. You guys look clean. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah. So she just told me I'm going to go with them. And I remember like I protested. I didn't want to because we stopped when Larry broke up with my mom and we weren't going to
Yeah.
Glen Eden anymore.
Yeah.
And then she said, you're going to go to Glen Eden with Don and Jody. I'm like, I don't want to go to Glen Eden. Uh,
Okay.
Whatever. But so they came over and my mom called me out of my room and introductions. There was a little conversation and we went to Glen Eden.
Was this the first time your mom also met them?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know, but
Fair enough. Okay. We don't know. That's all right.
How
Okay.
old were you at this point, Lisa?
11.
11.
Okay. And I know
So
you may
was it
not remember this. I just have, do you think there was an exchange of money or something like that with your mom? Or do you think she was just that uncaring?
I think she was that uncaring, but I guess it wouldn't be surprising if there was
okay?
money. I never saw that. However, I had a therapist, and somewhere I have this article in one of my boxes, but years ago, he was trauma informed for his time, but there was some scholarly paper that basically was talking about women who, because I believe my mother was sexually abused, probably, right?
Mm,
And whatever creates wounds in people, but people have choices too.
yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, like maybe she was like vicariously sexually abusing me. The article said something like sort of like sexual abuse by proxy or,
Mm,
Hmm.
setting me up or whatever her
Got it.
narcissistic mind. I don't know. It's almost like, she got attention. Like if I would have been killed or something, it would have been talk about a victim, right? She would have been like,
mm,
oh no, look what I'm going through.
I see.
yeah.
Um, she told me that I had to go too because my brother and I argued too much. So that way, then I would be gone on the weekends and vacations and
Okay.
and wouldn't be arguing.
Okay.
But
Okay.
So,
So it was just you that went, not you and your sister, just you.
yeah, I think the first time my sister went, but like with her boyfriend at the time or something,
Okay.
some memory of that. But I was in the car with Don and Jody at a truck. And so right away, like I hadn't been smoking cigarettes in front of adults, but Jody offered me a cigarette. And I was like,
Mm,
really? Are you sure? And
yeah.
so then I started smoking and, we go to the nudist camp and it's super awkward. I don't want to do it, but you have to. And so Jody's like, well, just do it really fast. Just take your clothes off really fast. Let's make a game out
Mm.
of it. Everything was a game. And so that's just how it started with Don and Jody. And
Again, we don't. I'm not asking for any details. That's not the point of this. My thing is the grooming aspect, and I'm saving my questions, but on this one, were Don and Jody cooperative in the abuse or molestation? Like, was it wasn't just one over the other. Were they both engaged? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm interested in the trying to understand, because I only know it from the law enforcement side and what I read. Right. I'm trying to not get upset.
You
Anyway,
can be upset,
I am a little bit.
but regulate it. Don't
Yeah,
ruin
yeah,
your
no,
day.
is trying to articulate from your perspective, which I so unique in your ability to articulate it, especially knowing what you know now, the behavior and how it presents. I mean, I got to a child, right, and what that looks like, and kind of what I know you kind of can look back and kind of pick it apart now, but what did that look like from your perspective?
So when I met Don and Jody, like I just thought he was creepy. I don't want to be around him. He's like 40.
Both of them?
Um, well, she was like in her 20s.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's some, power issue there too. But
He was
she's
older,
like,
is what I'm assuming?
yeah, he was in his 40s and she's like in her 20s,
Okay.
early 20s. And she's like 6'2" basketball player.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know how tall he was, but he's shorter than her.
Yeah.
And she was really cool, really charismatic. I
Mhm.
was a little athlete, and she was telling me about her. She was like, she said the first female to dunk it, like in Illinois or something.
Okay. I understand.
And so I loved her,
Yeah.
and anyway, they were nice, but she was always there. I mean, I would have definitely, I don't know how it would have gone if it was just him, right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
But I was happy to be around her. They were
Mhm.
generally pleasant to me, but it quickly went to then I was going to go to their apartment in
Mhm.
Santa Ana after we went to Glen Eden. And then the rules were the same. It's Glen Eden. Clothing's not optional in the apartment. And
Mm.
so as soon as you step in, the clothes come off. And then I was able to have drinks like them, alcohol, and there was
Mhm.
marijuana sometimes. And it quickly became sexual. And there was indoctrination around that too.
So I guess that's what I mean, again, without getting into I mean, share what you wish to share, but what did that look like, the indoctrination part?
Yeah, well, first they built a relationship with me.
Yeah.
And again, mostly like I just really loved Jody and I'm a starving child for any positive attention.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And plus I have to go anyway. And then I can smoke and all that. But
Yep.
Right.
really how it happened, like Dawn told me one day Jody was at work and I had to be alone with him sometimes, but we were going to pick her up and he told me, hey, your sister said you want to have sex with me. That's how that started. And I really don't know to this day if that's a lie or
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was
Right.
Yeah.
petrified and I said, no, 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 no. And I immediately felt busted. Like, what did I do?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was really worried how Jody would feel about it. So I said,
Yeah.
please don't tell Jody, and he's kind of just snickering throughout. And he said, okay, I won't tell Jody. But then she gets in the car and he said, hey, guess what? Lisa wants to have sex with me. And I just,
You're mortified, yeah.
yeah. And she said, oh, all right, immediately.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. Just them just mostly her like talking me into going into the bedroom and watching. And then I had eventually participate in certain ways. And part of that ended up too, like he really liked the movie Pretty Baby with Brooke Shields. You
Okay.
don't know
Yep.
it? Good. But um it was a movie, her and Sharon Sarandon. I forget her
Susan
name.
Sarandon?
Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon was her mother, and she was a prostitute in a whorehouse in New Orleans or something. And Brooke Shields being raised there. And so she's hitting the prime age of 12. So that's when she gets to be sold now. And it's a great
Mhm.
thing in the movie. It's just great. And it's wonderful. And everyone's so excited about it. And she gets paraded around on I don't know, they carry her around on like I don't know what you call it, a
Mhm.
board, whatever. She's in the air. And all these men grown men. And by the way, Brooke Shield looks like a child, and she's not a developed girl at 12 years old in this film. And you see her naked in the film, and she looks like a child.
You never
Yeah,
seen that, Mo?
No, I've never seen
Okay.
this.
That's okay.
The first I heard of it was when I watched Lisa talk about it on Soft White
Yeah.
Underbelly, and I was mind blown that this was something that was permitted to be made and then put out.
70s and 80s were wild, but I mean, not that they're not now, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Well,
was his
and then
favorite film? Yeah.
that was his favorite. Yeah, like he had
Yeah.
a projector with it on the tape, whatever, and he
Mhm.
would make me watch it with him over and over. And again, the message is the way Brooks, and I know she was a victim at the time. However, she's 1 years older than me, and she could
Mhm.
come out against it.
Yeah.
And even her recent documentary, she couldn't, even though she did allow her daughters to say that's child pornography. So she didn't quash her daughter's voice. But anyway,
Yep.
so yeah, it just promotes the idea that it's great to have sex at 12. It's no big deal. See, look, it didn't affect her. She's just a happy kid still and making money and whatever. So
So let me ask you this. So Don and Jody, this is the first time I'm hearing like you actually develop some sort of relationship with Jody, which again, she's grooming you as well, basically. Prior to that, I'm assuming it wasn't quite that type of relationship you were experiencing. It doesn't sound like you're saying it was any violence. This to me seems more like what I know as grooming, where they're really just, treating you like one of the adults, making you feel like everything's okay. We're really cool. We're not going to hurt you. This is actually really great. We care about you. That to me, that's kind of like I mean, I hate to say it nowadays, but now that's like the textbook grooming platform as opposed to rage, fear, and violence, which is what Larry did, where, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill your mom or your sister or something, which is also a tactic. Is that kind of accurate
yeah.
description
And
of what?
again, they're philosophers. So Jody
Oh,
told me
yes,
once,
yes.
because I didn't want to have sex. I had some voice still, but that
Mhm.
was the goal. And he was
For
going to do me
both
a
of them.
favor.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was gonna do me a favor by, being my first one, by the way. That was his approach. Like, yeah,
Got it.
I'll do that for you. I'm not
I'm going to help you out.
literally, I won't tell you everything he said or gesture, but he did
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it sound like, it would be kind of a chore for him, but he's gonna do it for me. But he wanted me to choose that. And I could
Mhm.
never be like, okay.
Yeah.
But there was other sexual acts
No, I
that
understand.
you were involved in. But Jody told me when one of the times they're trying to talk me into it, Lisa, if I would like to have sex with my dad. And I said to Dawn, do you want me to call you dad? I don't know. I was sort of confused, but
Yeah.
she was just saying how she was sexually attracted to her dad. Like if you had a good dad, you would want to have sex with him. Like they knew I did not have a good dad.
Yeah.
Because I really don't know if he knew about them or not. I don't ever remember having conversations or I don't know, but he
Yeah. Fair
must have
enough.
known or something.
Right.
Okay.
And then Dawn told me, your mom's crazy.
Which you already knew, right?
Well, I didn't really know that at
At
that
that point.
age.
Okay. That's
There
fair.
was just a
No,
lot
that's
of
fair.
tears and a lot of yelling and
Yeah.
whatever, but I really didn't know.
Yeah.
That was just my
Okay.
life.
Because you're 11 still at this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
so they very well knew I was completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's
what
okay.
ended up happening with them is there was, in general, a lot of pictures being taken, and I wasn't the only
Of you?
girl.
Okay.
Yeah, of me, and
Okay.
then sometimes there'd be other girls there, and it was just like, "Oh, let's play dress up or something," and just
Your
weird.
age group?
Yeah, and, but a lot of times it was just me, and then near the end, Jody started leaving me alone with Dawn,
Mm.
just and then that movie.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
one day, Don said that he's going to take me and some other girls to a photographer because, he thinks it could be a model. And I was like, I felt like an ugly, fat, disgusting girl. think, that's how I felt. And
Yeah.
not that there's anything wrong with being overweight or anything. I'm just
No, I get it.
You're
whatever. But I
11.
told him, I,
I'm
I
sorry. Go
told
ahead.
him,
Yeah.
and I wasn't, I look back now, I was skinny.
Yeah.
But I felt, my brother called me fat.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I told him, no, I don't want to be a model. I can't be a model. And anyway, so we're going to the photographers because it didn't matter what I wanted and other girls. And I did on the way there, I heard a voice. I don't know how to explain it,
Mhm.
but like that was speaking to me,
Mhm.
specifically memorize how to get there. And I kind of ignored it. But like really at that time, I didn't know where I was ever. Unless I
Mhm.
was right where I grew up. I knew how to get around that area, but you took me
Mhm.
on the
Right.
freeway. I don't know where I'm at. But I heard it again, memorize how to get there. And so I'm in the back of the truck and there's a show on the truck and I was looking and I'm in Santa Ana and I'm remembering 7th Street, 14th Street. And I remember what the building looks like. And so I did, and then that was
Mhm.
it. And then the photographer was a very cold, um, icky feeling guy, and it was just
Mhm.
headshots, our clothes were on, we were done and over. But that week go ahead. Did you have a
So
question?
there was with the photographer, was Don in there with you? Was it,
Uh-huh.
or did he just kind of dump you off to this guy?
Dawn and Jody went up with us, um, girls, and I see there's like 5 or 6 of us, and I walked in the office, and at the time, Rubik's Cubes were new, and the guy had a Rubik's Cube, and I said, "Can I play with your Rubik's Cube?" Whatever,
Mhm.
and he
Yeah.
just, like, looked at me, like, no words, just really cold stare, and I
Mm.
just, like, felt that,
Okay.
and I just sat down,
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. But after that, it was just kinda we all took our turns, but it was, again, not nude pictures, it was just
Mhm.
brief headshots, and that was it.
Did you ever find out what the purpose of these pictures were? Or was it the under the guise of you're gonna be a model?
Yeah, I mean, that the guys of that, but what happened is well, it was that weekend or the next weekend, I don't know. I heard Dawn on the phone with this guy saying,
Mhm.
"Lisa and another girl they'll do nude pictures." And I was like, the way he said it like that, I was like, "No, I guess I still had some fight in me," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I'm naked in the apartment, there's pictures being taken, just the way that sounded, I'm like, "No, it
Right.
won't."
Yeah. Hit you
And
wrong.
it's interesting how you point out, Tyler, like, he was a very grooming, like, coercive, trying to be
Mhm.
nice, but he turned and looked at me with a different look
Mhm.
and said, "Shh," because the
Yeah.
photographer was on the phone.
Yeah.
And, I just sat down.
Yeah.
And anyway, they took me home, and that week, they got busted,
The Don and Jody or the photographer?
Don and Jody.
Okay. So when you say they got busted, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, what happened and, like, in the book I'm writing and then, like, in the interview, there's only so much information you can tell, but what happened
Yeah.
is my friend called me and said, "Don and Jody are busted," and I'm like honestly, it was like, "For what?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know what she said. I don't know or whatever, but so then I called, and Jody answered and said, "Don't call again." So I was heartbroken,
Yeah.
Because you cared
that
about these people at this point.
Yeah.
yeah, especially Jody. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do. I think my friend told me the police came to talk to her. I'm not sure, but that's what happened at my school. I was at PE, and I got a note to
Mhm.
go to the office.
Right?
Yeah, and that would be my first interaction with the police.
Can you describe that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so, junior high, I, I used to ditch a lot, right? Fake sick. And, the office lady, Miss Brewer, did not like me. I didn't like her, she didn't like me, I don't know. Um, but so she would just get mad at me. Anyway, so I walk in the office and that's her face, and she kinda had, like, this more of a, look on her face instead of just pissed off at me, And, then she points out, like, detective and detective. And, I'm looking up at them and they're just, I don't know, business casual, black, they have their gun,
Mhm.
I don't know, radio, that sort of thing, the badge. And, basically said they're going to question me. And we go in this room, right, in the office area. And, they told me, Miss Brewers, here's your support person.
Mhm.
They didn't really ask me who I
Yeah,
Who
wanted,
yeah.
you
or
wanted to be.
I didn't
Yeah.
really even, I mean, I guess I had some idea, right? Because my friend had called me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they just started asking questions. They told me that, is it okay if they record? Okay, I guess.
Mhm.
And started, Don and Jody, Don Gordon, Jody Jones. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know how long it went on.
I understand.
Asked all those questions, sexual relationship, what kind, whatever. And did my mom know? Yeah. Like, well,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't remember those
I gotcha.
specifics.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but I think during the course of the interview, detective kind of got the idea that something's wrong with my mom.
Mhm.
So coincidentally or whatever, that day my mom actually was picking me up from school. Usually I rode my bike, but
Mhm.
I said, well, she's picking me up from school. And
Yeah.
the school bell rang, school was getting out, and somebody went to get her. I don't know who.
Mhm.
And for some reason, we're walking out of the office or out of the room into the general office where everybody's around.
Mhm.
And my mom looks at me like with a sad look and just, Lisa, why didn't you tell me? And
Mm.
hugs me in the office. And I felt like, again, what am I doing wrong? All the time I'm doing something wrong.
Mhm.
But it didn't hit me till years later why it was so confusing too. She hugged me, for one. She
Mhm.
never hugged
Yeah.
me.
Right.
And then two, of course, that's a complete her CYA.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Why didn't you tell me?
Right.
Yeah,
Acting
yeah,
like
yeah.
she didn't know. So, but the detective told me he was taking me to a shelter home.
Mm.
I really didn't understand why at the time.
Yeah.
But over the course of me being there, which I don't know, was maybe a week, not sure. Maybe it was longer. Anyway, he was very kind to me. He talked with me. I actually went twice because what happened is we went there and I think he said something like we're investigating your mother and I didn't really understand.
Mhm.
But then Orange County detectives wanted to talk to me and was Riverside detectives. And so a social worker drove me. I think it was social worker drove me to Orange County. And so that detective, somehow we end up in like an office together, just him and I. And he's like, do you know about a photographer, this photographer, Don and Jody,
Mhm.
something? And I don't know how he knew to ask that, right? But I was like, yeah, I know a photographer. He said, oh, Don and Jody don't remember. They said where he's at. And I, before I had a chance to say, I memorized how to get there because all of that is just really clear in my head.
Mhm.
Right.
He told me basically that he was a child murderer. He said that he
Murderer?
killed some kids.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, so I I said, well, I know how to get there. And he said, you do. Let's go right now. And so he and another detective and I went and I showed them how to get there.
Mhm.
And even walked up to the door with them. And I remember thinking, hey, this guy kills kids and he's going to see it's me.
Yeah.
Eh, Did they ever explain why it was necessary to have, because you're still how old at this point? 11, 12-ish?
I'm probably 13.
13. Why did you need to walk up to the door with them? Why wasn't it acceptable for you to just point? I don't know if you remember at the time.
I
What
don't
year
know.
was this? What year was this?
Born in 68, 78, so, 80, 81?
Okay. So, but
Okay.
you also got to keep in mind sex crimes and stuff like that were not
Yeah.
investigated the same. And
No,
child
it's just
abuse,
wild.
abuse up until 1983 was listed under animal abuse. It was like a subsection of
That's true.
animal abuse.
That's true. It's
So
just
I think what got these guys going, just guessing, listening to your story, was the murder aspect. Did they even get into? You said they talked to you about the sexual relationship aspect, but I think probably at that in that year age range or time frame was probably the murder aspect, which obviously is a serious crime. But it wasn't until
Yeah.
later in the 80s that they even started caring really about
yeah.
child abuse and stuff.
You're right. It's mind
It's
blowing to
wild.
me
It's
again
wild to hear this though. It's blowing my mind.
because I'm listening and immediately in my head I'm thinking about I'm re-victimizing this victim by taking her to this space where it was already traumatic with her, telling her what this person was capable of. She now is a child knowing they have a picture of her and all these like
Yeah.
none of these things.
No.
And maybe we were that much more evolved when we became cops, but I feel like even in the 80s, you should have taken a step back and said, wait, let's think this through a little bit better.
Yeah. No, I guess I'm a new aged cop in this part of the story. It's just like the stuff that you're talking about is like thankfully they don't typically do this anymore. Anyway,
Thankfully.
I'm glad we've grown a little bit, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you walk to the door, you point it out, then what?
Mhm. There was no answer.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Okay.
So we went back and that was it. Nobody ever talked with me about it again.
So do we know if this guy ever got caught, got arrested? Do we know what happened?
No, but for me,
Wow.
I feel like I got a message from the universe, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
there was this, you remember there used to be news editorials, this guy, Hal
hmm
Fishman, I think it was in California.
hmm
I was watching the TV. This was after I had been back in the shelter home and then a foster home, and then I was back home or something. And he was talking about the braveness of a victim, pointing out something, and this child predator had been busted because of that or something. I
Right.
just took that like, okay, well, maybe he did get busted. But no one ever followed up with me. Nobody ever said anything. Many years later, in my
Wow.
40s, after another contact with Orange County, I got in touch with Detective again. I would run into him sometimes as an adult.
No.
Okay.
And then
Wow.
I would immediately cry. Whenever I see him, I'm like, ugh.
Right.
Uh, I I called him. I mean, it must have been me calling him, trying to remember exactly why. But when I would occasionally recall this story throughout my life, I always felt like it sounds like I'm lying, it sounds like I'm making this up. But like he told me, a girl was found on a dumpster and a boy was tied up to a chair. And I don't know, like that's what I remember this detective telling me.
hmm
And so I was talking to Detective Mendoza and he said, yeah, the guy, made snuff films.
So again, snuff films, in your own words, again, they're different than just normal pornography. They tend to be, well, in your own words, if you
I
don't mind.
mean, they kill the person as they're like raping them and torturing them, whether it's child
They're
or
extraordinarily violent.
yeah, I mean, I really haven't like
Well, no, I'm assuming
yeah.
you don't do deep dives on snuff films,
No.
but there's a difference between
I
just
had no idea what
normal.
that was until you explained it.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
well, s- so the pornography, child pornography, snuff films they don't necessarily always just involve children, but typically it's extraordinarily violent, and sometimes it does also involve the murder and death. There was actually a film about that. I think Nicolas Cage did it, like 8 millimeter or something like that. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track. Mo, I'm blown away. 13-year-old girl victim. Hey, this guy kills kids. Can you knock on his door? And then no answer. Never talk to her again.
Never
That
talked to her
is
again.
blowing my mind.
Thank you for that validation because
Holy
Yeah.
hell, that's blowing my mind. I'm
it,
sorry. I'm trying to just not
the
lose it.
only thing when I talked to detective in my face, I said, "Wow, you knew." He's like, "Yeah, I knew about it, but I didn't tell you because I didn't want to, upset you more. You're going through so much." Like back when I was 13.
Yeah.
I It's just this is part of the reason why I really wanted to talk to you, Lisa, because I'm listening to you as you're going through your story, and several times you were like, when my sister walked in and caught me being molested, I felt attacked. When Don told his girlfriend that I wanted to have sex with him, I felt busted.
Yeah.
When you get interviewed by police officers, they don't ask you as the victim, who would you like for us to bring in the office with you so that you can actually feel supported? They just appoint somebody and start asking you questions. They take you to a suspect's residence that has killed people and say, hey, can you knock on the door? Sorry, we didn't
Oh my
find
God.
him. Talk to you later. To me, it's just like, I don't know how, even in the 80s, that people weren't, and I understand your sister, I understand the idea that, with Dawn and that kind of thing, that was all part of the grooming. But now we've involved law enforcement
Law
into it.
enforcement,
And
yeah.
that's where, to me, it's just the re-victimization of victims. And grant you, it may not be done purposefully, but this is where we have to do better. So, no, you are absolutely not crazy, or you're not out of your, thinking out of your head when you look at these situations. These situations are mind blowing that they didn't see this even in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a hard time not just there's no excuse. I mean, Monday morning quarterbacking and all that, it was 40 years ago.
Right.
I don't give a shit. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Well, your validation from both of you means a lot.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
Not just the criminality that happened to you, but then how you were treated is just, it's disappointing. I'll just
And
say
you
it that way.
know,
It's disappointing.
so you
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
happened. I never forgot that. And the different times when I had to interact with the system in the future, when Don was involved, I always wondered, was with this guy that kills kids involved, like what they know about me or not. I
Yeah.
was in the shelter
Yeah.
home, and detective didn't want me to miss out on playing softball because he actually did care about me and took me out to dinner with his family and told me don't let it affect you, which I actually took that really to heart, but I didn't really know what it meant, and
Yeah.
it motivated me. It also shamed me, but I know he meant well. He was doing what he could. But I when I went to softball, I had to be escorted by a sheriff, and I had no
Okay.
idea why. I had no idea
Right.
why. And I'm just now
Yeah.
this freak, I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's this sheriff over there, and I can't even tell anybody why, because I didn't know, really.
Yeah.
No.
And the coaches were like kind of, sad for me, I guess. But I don't know. So
So you
Yeah.
said detective, that was one of your positive experiences with law enforcement. Was he the sole light in this situation that you kind of dealt with, even though I think he made some trip ups as well? Or were there other positive experiences you had with law enforcement?
like throughout my life at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, actually.
let's
Yeah.
cover
Okay.
that. Yeah.
I'll just say detective apparently he told me my mom is the worst kind of abuser.
I
And I
agree with
still
this
didn't
statement.
fully comprehend, but he's like, "But the judge is sending you back home. There's nothing I can do." And
Right.
so he drove me
Yeah.
home and apologized and said and gave me his card and said, "If anything, go, I don't know. You can call me if you have any problems or something." And so I went home, and my mom, again, I can't literally remember what she said. Probably
Yeah.
called me a slut, and how could I do that? And just was tearing
Yeah.
into me. And I don't know if it was the same day but
Yeah.
I left the house. Like she would always kick me out anyway from when I was like really young, 5. But I went to a payphone and I called him, and we met up at General Hospital at the time. And I told him what my mom said, and he put me back in the shelter home. And then I went to foster home for a little bit over the summer, and then I came back for 9th grade.
Oh
And
my God, this is
so
all before 9th grade. Okay.
what was that?
I said this is all before 9th grade. Let me
Before the
just
ninth.
touch on a couple things that you brought up, just to share for the audience and maybe even yourself. Unfortunately, even today, 2025,
Mhm.
cops. Again, I can only speak from a cop perspective on some of these subjects, but I
Right.
can't tell you how many children I've this again. Cops don't take kids away from from their families. It's child services, whatever state they're in, but drug use, abuse, horrible abuse. And I was never a detective in these things, but I took a lot of courses and I did a lot of work with these types of cases that you're describing. And the judges typically in almost every state will basically, they want to make every effort to reunite the child with the parent or parents or however it works out, whatever the nuclear family is. And so horrible abuse, meth labs, burns, scar tissue, beatings, burning, just horrible stuff that I'm not trying to be too graphic. Parents will do a year, maybe 2 of counseling. And if they complete all the counseling courses, they will give the kids right back. And to your point, and this is a hard one for me to, because I don't want to bash the entire industry. I have friends of mine who have fostered and then adopted children, great people. So I'm not trying to speak ill of the entire program of fostering and adoption by any stretch of the imagination, but there are also a lot of horror stories that they get taken from a house where they were removed for a reason, and they're getting put to a situation almost similar where it might not be the same type of abuse, but it's still abuse.
Right.
You're touching on something that I'm very passionate about. I've done a lot of research on. I've written papers about it. I've done a lot of things in that regard. Papers as far as in school, college courses, things like that, not professionally or anything like that. So sadly, that is still the truth, and that's still the case to this day. And I don't know Detective, and I will say that in some aspects, he went above and beyond, taking you out to eat with his family, giving you his card, actually answering when you call. These are all positives, trying to help you the way probably what was in his ability, right? I mean, being in that field, I can only imagine this is part of the reason I'm glad I'm glad I maybe didn't get in that field. I'd want to adopt all these children and save them or protect them, but there's only so much you can do, right? So in that regard, I think that detective did above and beyond, but some of the strategic investigative steps that we're taking during that are a little hard for me to swallow in 2025.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it would have been better just to keep me abreast of what's going on. Tell me actually what's going on.
Communication for sure. I will say most agencies I work for, they have victim advocates now, and they notify the victims. There's a whole every agency I've ever worked with, there's a whole section dedicated to that. Because I will also say cops are not always the best to deal with that. Mo and I have talked about it, that what kind of gets put on you to investigate these things, like you're trying to be a therapist, a counselor, but also an investigator, that sense of security, that blanket, so to speak. But then you're that might have been one of 10 cases he was working. You know what I mean? Like, not to minimize by any stretch of the imagination. It's horrific what you're describing.
They're overworked, underpaid. They're living. Not to feel bad for me, but I do appreciate it. I mean, I do appreciate people's support and everything, but there's other people with similar stories, and so what ended up happening is I was assaulted by a couple guys in junior high, and I became the school slut, like not literally me trying to be like, hey, but I was labeled as the school slut,
Right.
and people called me slut and treated me like that. And it was a nightmare. A high school guy assaulted me at a party, and everyone just turned on me, and so all of that is going on amongst that, and that's what
Right.
happens. I mean, once I think it was Tyler Perry I heard once in an interview where, because he's a sexual abuse survivor, he's like, it's like predators are like sharks, and when you're wounded, you're bleeding, and they just they
Circle.
sense the blood or something, not to be woo woo, but also, the way you carry yourself, and you don't notice red flags. You don't have a voice. I don't know. They're just good at finding the people that have already been perpetrated on, and they just get abused over and over.
Yeah.
Lisa, I brought this up on a different podcast that I do with BJ, but cops, we talk about it. It's not necessarily profiling, but you can meet somebody and you're like, that dude's a criminal, or that person, male, female, doesn't matter. Again, not to be woo woo, but there's a way that they look, carry themselves, the way they speak. You're like, you're
Our
not
mirror
in
neurons.
you're not in the average range. There's something different, and I can probably assume that vice versa, what you're speaking to. So I agree with what you're saying.
For
Yeah.
sure.
there's something in there.
I
I
mean,
agree.
Yeah.
statistically, once you're sexually abused, you're going to be sexually abused again, like more
Yeah.
likely than, I don't know, it makes sense to say people that weren't, but it's very
Yeah.
common to be perpetrated
Yeah.
on again and again. So then for ninth grade, like in my mind, I'm going to be a good student and focus on
Yeah.
school. And so I was able, like the first quarter, it was a miracle. I got on the honor roll and I lettered in volleyball as a ninth grader. I never played it before. Proud of that.
All right.
Awesome.
But
All right.
Yeah.
Tying into the athlete. I hear you.
right.
Absolutely.
And anyway, so I was still getting high and smoking, but I was managing it, I guess. And my mom was still my mom, but there is the lady that lived behind us my whole life, and Kathy, and the Italian lady, and my mom and I had somewhat of a relationship, I guess, at this point, and we would go over to Kathy's and play Yahtzee, drink coffee, smoke cigarettes in our pajamas, and play Yahtzee. Well, one of her sons moved back home. And I had never met him. He was cute. All the girls kind of had a crush on him because he was good looking. Anyway, he's late 30s, I guess. So, long story short, he was divorced, moved back home. He was a truck driver. He was into methamphetamines. And he basically perpetrated on me and a lot of other girls, possibly a boy. So, I mean, he groomed me. So I just remember going over there and then he's like, so, asking me questions and what'd you do over the summer? Like, well, I learned like I never lied about my age and I'll just tell the truth, like tried to do the right thing. I'm like, well, I was in a foster home because I was molested and whatever. And, went to court for it because I went to court. Oh, really? And anyway, so one day it was grooming. I didn't catch it, of course, at the time, but
Right.
he said, wow, that's really too bad. But if you had wanted it, like, then it would have been okay, right? I'm like, and
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. I'm 14.
Oh, and he's 30 something, right?
Yeah. And, so whatever, we're just having these conversations. His mom came in the living room and started yelling at me that I am seducing her son and to get out.
Okay.
Literally, it was a big fight. And my mom, the one time in her life, stood up for me. What are you talking to my daughter that way? And we walking and back around to our house, and that was it. The friendship was over. But not too long after that, knock knock at our door, there's Glenn. I'm so sorry. His name's Glenn. Glenn
Yeah.
Lowe. Um and he's like, my mom, I don't know why she did that. You didn't deserve that. So sorry. But you know what? I'm gonna come over here and we can be friends here. To me, my mom, my sister, and whoever, we're just friends with him now.
Yeah.
So
Right.
anyway, what ended up happening is I don't know if he's the first one to introduce my sister to meth, but my sister and him took me on a drive one day and like, here, try this. This is methamphetamine. I'd had black beauties and I don't know, cross tops before, but I'd never done meth or anything. But he's like, here,
So
try it. And so I did. And I don't know. It's that was just the beginning of me doing meth. And,
Yep.
you
Right.
get like this huge dopamine rush and you just want to talk and all this stuff. And you don't sleep. And, and Glenn would tell me, like, he'd give me meth. He'd like, well, you know, you can come over in the middle of the night. You're not able to sleep. We'll play games. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was scared to go over because his mom hated
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, don't worry, you can come in through the window.
Okay.
So anyway, one night I did. And it just, um, you know, became sexual really that night. He started to kiss me. And I thought, what? He likes me? This guy, he's so cool. He's so cute. And like I'm the chosen one or something. And he's like my
Right.
boyfriend now. But I was really terrified anybody would find out because I'm already the slut. And
Yeah.
All that, everything had already happened. And now that's not what I planned for. I didn't plan for this to happen. So I told him, nobody can know.
Yeah. You told him that.
I told him,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, it turns out that obviously that worked in his favor.
Yeah,
Of course.
absolutely.
And anyway, so there was pictures involved in
Yep.
all, compromising situations and in different outfits. He took a picture of me in my volleyball outfit uniform. And so as time went on a little bit, I started to catch on, like, I don't think he's a very good boyfriend. I don't feel like this isn't, I don't know. There was no kissing. There was no like tenderness. It became very transactional. And I don't know. I didn't want to do it anymore. Like, try to talk me into it. He'd write me letters, and it was like stalking situation. And anyway, and then, I ended up in another bad situation with another guy and whatever. So it just bad guy to bad guy, basically. But Glenn got busted. I don't know how, I don't know who, but he called me up one day and my sister and asked us to come over. And there was other girls there looking at each other. So he starts to just, as the philosopher that he is, because he used to tell me, because I thought I loved him,
Yeah.
and he's like, well, we're friends. And when you get married someday, Lisa, I'll be there for you. I'll take you to your divorce when you get divorced, and I'll be there for
Oh
you,
my
like,
God.
whatever, like stuff like that. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's not what I wanted,
No.
Right.
So he has all of us in this room, and he proceeds to explain that he got busted for meth or whatever. I don't know who turned him in for what, but apparently my pictures weren't the only ones. And before that too, though, again, like, he would come over and try to talk me into doing more pictures. I told him no. He's like, well, if you want to get rid of some old pictures and do some new pictures, we'll do 10 new, get rid of 5 old, or some BS stuff. That's the way
Okay.
he was, right? But
Yeah.
I didn't want to, and I was just, like, petrified that it would come out again, because at the time, I just didn't have the same understanding as I do now. I just knew that I'm
Right.
gonna be,
Labeled.
Yeah.
and, but, all these other girls had done pictures too, and we didn't know about it until that day,
Yeah.
I see.
about each other. So,
Wait, why did he have you guys all over?
I guess he's just that confident in himself I don't know, like, what he said was, "So I know you guys won't testify against me because 'cause we're friends."
Now
You
it
know?
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. There it is. Okay.
And, you got my back, I got your back, right? I'll take you to your divorces and whatever. And then he
Interesting.
came and he sat next to me and he put his arm around me and he said, Lisa, you were the youngest. You're 14. And they verified that because I was in my volleyball uniform, and they went to Arlington High School and they took my picture to the office and they said, who's this?
Huh.
And so,
There you go.
especially you, Lisa, won't betray me or whatever.
Interesting. So he was using his peer pressure of his victims to pressure the other. That's
Right.
okay.
Right.
I'm learning too. I'm listening. I'm learning. This is okay. That's an interesting one for me. That's new.
The grooming aspect of it, it just, like, to hear your story and all these, like you said, I really truly feel like, especially when you're talking about somebody that young, someone who was
Yeah.
5 when they started being groomed, they're gonna carry themselves different, and I do think that these sharks in the water start circling,
Yeah.
and it's just, like, to hear all the different mechanisms of grooming they utilize, it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like a gift to have. I don't know. Maybe some people study it. I'm not a go. Don
Okay.
got 10 years, but he had already molested his own children, and he had actually done
Oh.
prison time, and or he was
Yeah.
in Patton State Hospital in San Bernardino,
Okay.
California, I think. I know this now. I didn't know it then, right?
No,
But
it's okay.
Right.
no, actually, he did tell me. He told me before they got busted, part of their grooming is Lisa, like, I don't remember how he said it, but basically he did these things with his kids and they were fine. It was the court system
Mm.
that messed them up.
Ah,
Got it. Okay.
okay.
Did Jody go to jail too?
Yeah. So she got a year. But I remember, so this is where my mom comes in. I didn't have to go to court because they pled,
Okay.
but my mom made me go to court.
Oh.
Why? Did she
because this is
articulate?
attention for her or something. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God. Okay.
I mean, I don't know, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
Okay.
so the judge asked me, I was the only victim there, to say something. And Jody, um, I guess instead of just doing parole or probation, she had to do a year because of my victim statement or something, I think. Write
Okay.
down everything you want to remember. I've written it down somewhere, but if you don't write it down, you forget, you know.
Yeah.
Of
No, for
course. No,
sure.
it's fine.
But anyway, I was in court. And so what I remember is that she would have to register as a sex offender the rest of her life.
Good.
Hmm.
But she didn't, I'll just say, because later in life. So yeah, they did time. And later I found out that he got out after 5 years.
Okay.
But so
I wish to say that was isolated, but that's probably still happening to this day. That still
I hope
happens.
it's
Probably.
changing. Oh my
But we have
gosh.
minimum mandatories for drugs. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to get on my
Anyway,
soapbox about this.
now we're gonna get off topic. Okay. And then, so did Glenn go to jail? Did he end up
Okay,
going to
so
jail or
then
no?
what happened with Glenn is I wasn't planning on doing anything,
Yeah.
to hurt him, I
Yep. I
guess.
understand. Yep.
And the detectives showed up at my house one day. Different detectives. I don't even remember their names so much. By this point,
Okay.
I'm 16 though.
Okay.
Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm 16, and my sister's 4 years older than me.
Okay.
And I don't know if she was married yet, but she was with her first husband at the time.
Okay.
And so they come in. We're here to talk about Glenlow, whatever. I don't remember all the conversation, but it came down to um, since I was the youngest victim,
Mhm.
it would be more best in the best interest of, I don't know, prosecuting him or something, to focus on my case,
Mhm.
because 14 is different than 15 to the law,
Correct.
Right.
right?
Yep.
Big difference.
Mhm.
And my sister is like, Lisa, Tommy doesn't know. Please do it. Because I was like, I'm not, I'm not going to be involved. And and also they did say, like, we need someone here over 18. Um, and my mom wasn't home, which is just as well, really. But um, is it okay that your sister, she's over 18, she's the over 18-year-old? And I'm like, okay, I guess.
Okay.
And basically, though, she said, will you please do it so, Tommy doesn't find out I was involved with Glenn?
Tommy being her first husband.
Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't find out she was involved with Glenn? Oh,
Yeah. I'm tracking
okay.
what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
she wanted you to do it, so she didn't have to do it.
yeah.
Understood. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And so I agreed to it.
Okay.
And so, talking about pictures, they brought out explicit pictures, just them and me now. My sister went back to her room. Just these
They
two.
showed you the pictures of you. Okay.
Yeah, some of them, not all of them, but yeah.
That
Okay.
just
Bad
so you know,
ones.
that's not normal. Yeah, that's not normal
That's
either. But we'll continue.
And it was really, I'm like dissociated from it somewhat, right?
Yeah, I
And I've
right.
done
understand.
a lot of
Yeah.
healing. But I mean, I felt like so humiliated. And
Two people you don't know in a position of authority are saying, "Look at these pictures."
Well, no, this leads into one of the other questions that we had, and it fits at this point. When you talk about how abuse shapes a victim's perception of authority figures, but then you
Yeah.
also overlay the interaction with the authority figures in these vulnerable states.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk on that a little bit, Lisa?
on how I felt.
Just how, like, when you're already dealing with someone who's a person that's been involved in an abuse situation, and now you come in as an authority figure, how does that already shape the way they're going to perceive you? And then now you add, now I'm somebody you don't know, and I'm throwing pictures of you in a very vulnerable position in front of you asking you these just invasive questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I know now, like,
Yeah.
you're an abuse victim, you just feel powerless. And then an authority figure person is you're like nothing is my
So you
initial
felt
thought.
okay, so you felt like you were nothing, and you you weren't even, you didn't even feel like you were being treated as an actual victim at that point. You were just being kind of
I
re-victimized.
didn't, but also I know now, but I'm completely triggered.
Oh yeah,
I'm like probably halfway not even there. Like half of me is somewhere else, like trying to even think straight, dissociation, fight,
yeah.
flight, freeze, fawn. I can't even think straight. I don't know, and like I don't know right from wrong, what's really. And so I felt in this case that initially they almost seemed kind of nice. I just remember one of them had kind of a beard. That's all. They were two white guys.
Mhm.
Then I felt just like a creepy, here at the picture thing, but a
Yeah.
creepy. And then one of them was like, well, actually telling me they felt kind of bad for Glenn because they thought he was a Korean War veteran and that he probably, you know,
That PTSD or something?
something like that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
telling me that. And then he says, but then I realized, no, the age, whatever. Somehow he didn't fit in the age. But I guess Glenn had told them that. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's pretty much all I remember of the interview was them coercing me and my
Yeah, yeah.
sister into, okay, I guess the case is about me. And then showing me the pictures and asking me, is this you? What's that? What's that? And and then just they felt bad for Glenn, but then realized no, he wasn't. That's really all I remember.
That's so
And
insane.
it was not positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, this is another one of those opportunities where we could have handled this a lot different. And instead, there became a situation where you, the victim, was re victimized just by the
Mhm.
mere handling of the situation. It's
Yeah, I can
just,
see they're trying to do the right thing in the sense that yes, the age thing, they wanted to make sure they're the sentencing. I understand that concept. That's why they articulated that to you. I have no idea. That's not really their
right. It's not
anyway.
relevant.
No, it's not relevant at all. It doesn't matter. Professionally, I understand, but it's like, no, that's you don't say that. Anyway,
Yeah, right. I mean,
I don't know.
so so then what
Yeah.
ended up happening? I don't know if I probably was interviewed again. I don't remember. But he pled and my mom made me go to court again.
Again?
So it's such an interesting. It's
Okay.
a weird. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm 16 at this time. Maybe I was older 16 by the time
Yeah.
he went to court. But Glenn had said, when he put his arm around me, you were 14, for sure you don't get involved in this because it would be worse for me. And then he's like, I'm going to find out who did it and take care of him. Kind of took that as a threat.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And
As you should.
so now I'm the only one involved. And I'm thinking maybe he'll kill me someday. I don't know. Maybe someone's going to kill me someday. I don't know. Right. Then I get high or something. But
Hmm.
so my mom said we're going to court, but I remember the detectives or the whoever they were talking to. I don't think it was those detectives said she doesn't have to go to court because he's pleading.
What are
And
you
she's like,
doing?
no, we're going to court. And so she took a friend and me, and we went to court. And Glenn's staring at me or glaring at me.
Uh,
Went down.